5 o'clock, we're going to call the meeting to order. This is the Committee on Committees, to review committees, the purpose, composition, functionality, and effectiveness of standing committees of the town. This is July 21st, 2025. I would like to say the following. This meeting is being recorded and will be rebroadcast on the Town of Barnstable's Government Access Channel. In accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20, the chair must inquire whether anyone else is recording this meeting, and if so, please make your presence known. Not seeing any. This meeting will be played via Xfinity Channel 8 or High Definition Channel 1072. It may also be accessed via the Government Access Channel live video on-demand archives on the Town of Barnstable's website. Okay, Cindy, we're going to go to roll call.
Absolutely. Councilors Burdick.
Present.
Clark. Lutke.
Here.
Turkelson. Chair of Committee, Councilor Crowe.
Here.
You have quorum.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any public comment? I don't see any others from the public, so we'll get right into the discussion today.
And just a point of clarification for you, Mr. Chair, when I originally did the agenda, I was under the assumption Mr. Gunther was still the chair of CFAC.
Yes.
It is not. It is Mr. Lazan, so that's why his name is not listed, but he is here representing CFAC.
Okay, great, thank you. I think we'll start with the Board of Assessors. And it's John Curran.
Yes, sir.
Yep. We're going to go, why don't we open it for questions to Mr. Curran, or maybe you can say a few words about what your committee is all about and how you think it's, how well you think it's being run, and what your overall thoughts, if anything we can do to help you.
Sure. So currently, the town of Barnstable has a 3-member appointed Board of Assessors. The Board of Assessors is mandated by Mass General Law, so every town in the Commonwealth has to have a Board of Assessors. They oversee the whole assessor's office. They sign our warrants, our abatements, motor vehicle, just a lot of checks and balances with them. Currently, we are at 2 members. One member did not re-sign up this past June, so we are looking to have a 3rd member to complete our board. I believe it might be posted. I'll have to check and see, but we want to make sure that that does get posted. And currently the board's functioning fine. We have 1 long-term member who we're very lucky to have. He's a commercial appraiser. He's been on the board, I think, close to 27 years. And another member, Mel, who's been on board for a few years, and he's also a former assessor back in the day. So I feel the board functions well with a knowledgeable board.
Okay, great. Just one for the record to say Councilor Chris Clark has joined the meeting.
Sorry, apologize.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Curran?
Yeah, I do. I think we have the 2 absolutely critical pieces of the town of Barnstable. I mean, they're all important boards, but the financial piece to me is just absolutely critical. By far, the preponderance of our tax base comes from our assessed, homeowners.
Sure.
That's where most of our income comes from. So it's absolutely critical that we get that right. And I know we on the council have done the residential exemption. We have that to work with. And we have other things, I think, coming up if we're looking at maybe more tax revenue done in an equitable way. I know I mentioned when I watched you talk about the water investment fund. That's something I'm very intrigued by, and that would be another, assessment that goes to everybody. So, and I was just at the Hyannisport Civic Association meeting last night, and they had mentioned they came to you. Did they go to you or did they go to the board? They were unhappy with the assessment of their lines where they do their boats.
No, they filed for an abatement this year in a timely fashion. They were granted an abatement. The configuration of that dock did change. They're under no legal obligation to let us know when those changes happen. They were assessed at the old way. Upon inspection, we verified that those changes did take place. Basically took away wood docks and put up stringers for dinghies.
Yeah.
And, we corrected it, readjusted the value. They were very happy the abatement was granted.
So was that done through the Board of Assessors, or is that through your office?
Well, they'll file it, I'll research
it.
The resident or the owner of the property files the abatement. I'll research it, do all the due diligence on it, and I present my facts to the board, who has the final say on whether to grant or deny.
So they have the final say, you do not?
I do not.
Okay.
They vote on it by majority.
And do they, you said they have oversight over your office to some degree. What else, other than abatements, do they do things?
They do. So, periodically throughout the year, we have a motor vehicle warrant. So the Registry of Motor Vehicles for motor vehicle excise tax will send over the latest bill, all the cars that were registered during that time period, which generates the bill. We just verify it and they sign off that it's been verified. They will also help on, when it comes to abatement time, to go out and do the due diligence. If we need a second set of eyeballs or someone to help us write up a report or crunch some of the numbers, they'll help with that. But they, it's mandatory by law. I did print out the law. Section 42, Chapter 41, Section 24 is, all cities and towns must have Board of Assessors in, different towns, depending on the size of the community and how the government is structured, might play more or less of a role, whether they're appointed or elected.
Yeah, do you think that they could help us look at the residential exemption? Would that be a role for them
They
at all?
do. They look into it because, as we're getting those numbers to you, they're overseeing it and we're sharing that information with them the whole time.
But I've never seen anything, when we've had a couple of votes, it's every year it comes
Yes, it is.
up.
Mhm.
Could we look at having a formal presentation from them as to what, or no, would that?
I think I would assume that role, and that's
Would you?
when,
Okay.
that's when we, usually get the median price, so we know how to, what we're basing the residential exemption on when we go through that formula, and I present it, that shows, and then you all vote on, this year was $233,000, then you vote on the percentage that equates out to that. I could ask them if they want to present it and see, I just don't know if that really falls under their realm, that's more in my department.
Yeah, no,
Mark always tells us it,
yeah.
Yeah,
or gives us the presentation.
yes,
No,
correct.
I'm just kind of, the line of questioning we've been doing with everybody is try to get our boards as robust as they can be, because people are volunteering their time. And I want to make, you said how skilled they are, I want to make sure we're using the skill set, because we do have such important responsibilities in this area.
Sure.
And how about the commercial, do they get involved in the commercial piece too?
They do. So, once again, obviously on abatements, they're gonna review all the data that we have. In Bill's particular case, on our board, our longstanding board member, he is a commercial appraiser, worked for a local bank for, a couple of decades. So he's a great asset, and he'll, review appraisals that are submitted to us, as well as help us write up our own narrative and appraisal to submit to them.
And we're still getting a significant amount that don't pay, right? That, what am I trying to say? That the commercial folks, they take the fine instead of,
Well, they absolutely are paying the real estate taxes. I think you might be thinking of business personal property taxes.
that's what I'm thinking of, yeah.
We do issue them to every business, whether they own the building or not. And even if you rent it, you are on the hook for the business personal property tax. I'd have to check with Sean. I don't know what the collection rates are on that. Unlike real estate, where you could put a lien on their property or go into tax title, I do know that the business personal property doesn't really have any teeth. We can yell a little louder or write a more sternly worded letter to them. But I don't know what the collection rates are on that.
But the other piece has teeth. You
The
said
real estate side.
The real estate.
Absolutely,
estate.
yes. Yeah, but if you don't pay your real estate taxes, the town could initiate a tax title foreclosure process.
And how often do you review the rates or the value of the commercial piece?
Every year, just like
Every
the
year.
real estate, yep, that value changes every single year. We send out to every resident what we call a formal list. That's their opportunity to state their assets and, the value that they associate with them. We do use a third-party vendor that runs the software and manages our personal property, because that is its own little animal. And they'll review all that. But yeah, every year the values could change because they depreciate, or some assets go into life, other new ones come on. So, they have their opportunity every year to submit a form of lift and state what their assets are or what has been removed.
Okay. Oh, and the last question I have, and I'm hogging, is I know we had hired a legal firm to go after some of our folks that haven't been paying their taxes. How did that work out? Or is that something we're gonna keep
Well, it
doing?
was-
Or because, is that because we couldn't manage it in-house, or what was
It
the
was
process?
outside counsel that we hired for the Cape Cod Mall, Simon Company. They have a team of lawyers working for them, so I think at the time the town thought it was advantageous to have someone that's very specialized in dealing with Simon Company and large regional malls. So we did hire Ellen Hutchinson. Unfortunately, very unexpectedly, she passed away 2 weeks ago.
Oh, no.
Yes. So she had a lot of cases going. We are speaking with our commercial appraiser, the opposing counsel, who I just happen to know, and we just want to let the dust settle, but see if she had an assistant, if we can get our hands on the work files, because I had been in phone contact. We've been making some headway, but here we are today at a little bit of a standstill.
That's on the commercial. What about on the residential piece?
We haven't hired any outside counsel for any of the residential properties.
Really? I thought we did. No?
Not that I'm aware of. Maybe before my time. I've only been here about a year now. Mark has a question.
Waving his hands.
Yeah.
Hi, thank you. If I can help answer that question, provide more clarification. We hired outside counsel, the tax collector, treasurer collector Sean O'Brien hired the outside counsel to help with collecting taxes owed on properties that are in tax title or on the verge of going into tax title. Completely separate issue than what John's talking about with the attorney that we hired to help with the abatement filings for the Cape Cod Mall. That has been a very successful program for us. We have, in fact, collected somewhere in the neighborhood of in excess of $6 million in back taxes.
Wow.
Since implementing that outside counsel in that role. So that has worked very well for us. The other matter that you brought up about commercial properties, I think you might have been referring to the income and expense reports that we ask all commercial property owners to file every year. That information helps John and his staff with the valuation of commercial properties. It's just one tool that we use. If they don't file that report with the assessing operations, they pay a $250 special assessment that gets added to the tax bill. Yes, we do have a number of commercial properties that still do not file those income and expense reports. But we have other methods to value commercial property other than just those income and expense report filings, because the fact is some of those are just not worth the paper they're printed on, because the information that comes in is worthless to us. And the last thing I wanted to mention was collection rates. Our collection rates have been excellent. Commercial property owners pay their taxes as well as the residential property owners. We collected like over 99% of the FY25 tax levy in FY25, which is one of the best collection rates we've ever seen. What John was talking about, when there's no teeth, however, for a personal property tax bill, because there's no real estate that we can lien. With a commercial property or a residential property, when there's real estate involved, we can place a lien on that property. So we have a lot more teeth to secure our interests. Where a personal property tax account, you don't have that. The only means we have is to take them to court to try to collect any back taxes, personal property taxes that are owed. And finally, I just wanted to mention that I think that the main role of the Board of Assessors really is to oversee that abatement filing process. Look at all the facts that are filed by the applicant, the facts that are provided by John and his team in justifying the value, and then using all that information, they make a decision as to what abatement, if any, should be awarded. And that's really the main role that they, which is a very important role, but that's the main role that they provide for the community.
Thank you. I find that very helpful, Mark, and I think every process should have some sort of relief mechanism, and I think the abatement process, if that's their number one focus and they do a really good job at it, then that's huge. That's absolutely enormous, because again, this is so much of our income on how we run the town that we have to get this right. So that's good. So will you periodically get outside counsel as you get things into tax title, or is that gonna be something you're gonna retain then? That,
We'll retain, the collector treasurer will retain the outside counsel for as long as we feel we need to. They've been very helpful. They do a lot of outreach for us, trying to get in touch with the property owners, trying to find out what their financial situation is, any health issues they may have, and they advise us as to which ones we should take the next step forward with. And they help us enter into payment plans with folks who are struggling to meet their tax obligations. We give them every opportunity we can to try to get them to at least pay something towards it to keep the interest from accruing. But we'll retain them as long as we need to. But as we continue to be more and more successful with this, our tax title balance is going down. So at some point we probably won't need them as much. But we'll keep them on board for a while.
okay.
Just want to say, do we have Councilor Turkelson available? Kristen, are you there? Can you unmute?
Looks like I noted she was here.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for joining the meeting. Any other questions for Mr. Kern? Chris?
Thank you very much. Appreciate you coming in and thank you for working for our town. I know that there's been some turnover in your seat for some time, but thank you for working for Barnstable. Do you have any prospects for the vacancy that's on your board?
We do. We just hired someone. She starts Monday, August 4th.
Oh,
For the board?
yes.
We do not have any prospects that I know of. Bill Gareffi has been reaching out to some people he knows, but no one's filed papers that I know of yet.
Okay, yeah, Cindy says no.
No, unfortunately, nothing yet, but we have been advertising on all of the social media,
Good.
as well as the webpage of the town council has it as a vacancy when the person chose to resign.
Sure. Do you have a job description? I know it's a volunteer position.
There should be something, I haven't seen it recently, but there should be something I can get my hands on, the expectations and the description of
I
what
wonder
it's
if we can
being
sell
on the
it because
board.
it's such a specialized skill set that we're looking for.
It is, there is, an education component to it where you have to take the Mass DOR course 101. It's not like the old days where you'd have to give up a week of your life to go to Amherst and take the course. It's all online now, which should make it a little more advantageous for people to look into. But I will look into that job description, what we have for them. There might
I
be
know
something.
it's not your job, it's the council appointments committee.
Yeah, it could be something in the town charter or something about what they have. So I'll have to look into that and see.
And how does our board of assessors compare to that of other towns? Are they all like 3-member boards? Is that?
A lot of them are 3-member boards. There are a few with 5 members. I think it's the larger the community, they may have some more, but three members is pretty much the norm, absolutely for Cape Cod. But we match up well with anyone. I mean, I think we're more fortunate to just have a couple of long-term members.
I noticed, sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you. And thank you, Mark, for the news that collection rates are over 99%. What do you attribute that success? The attorneys, the outside attorney?
Well, that, and just I think, economy, people are being diligent in paying their taxes, which we appreciate. But
$6 million.
I think the outside counsel does help. It's certainly more sends a stronger message to receive a letter from about back taxes owed from an attorney's letterhead than the treasurer collector's letterhead. I think it just may be a little bit more intimidating, I'm sure, for people, but we try to do what we can in a non-threatening way to make sure that that tax levy is paid by everyone as equitably as possible and for the benefit of the whole community.
Thank you, that's good news.
Thank you, Mark.
I have another question
ahead,
for
please.
the assessor, if you don't mind. For a couple of years, I have been attending the One Cape Summit that's spearheaded by the Cape Cod Commission. And I don't have I couldn't put my hands on the information, but I remember taking notes at one of these sessions that there was a prevailing sentiment that the higher end parcels were underassessed. I remember that being expressed, and I don't know if that's been rectified. That I can't give you more information or context than that.
Yeah, I don't know if they were speaking about Barnstable directly. I mean, I know every assessor's
it was
office
Cape
tries
Cod.
to go fair and equitable. In theory, what, someone's paying for a half bathroom, but, we've discussed this a lot. There's a lot of variabilities, location, condition. So, I think we have them fair. You're always gonna have people that are gonna disagree with value and file for
Sure.
abatements. Doesn't mean we're wrong, they're right. It's just where we are. And, if you don't have any abatements coming in, I'm not doing my job on that. So I don't feel that's the case in Barnstable, and, without the benefit of knowing that conversation. I don't
yeah.
know if they were speaking
I apologize
some
for
other
this.
community on the Cape or not.
No, it
The
just,
high-end properties can be more difficult, and one sale does not make the whole market. One $20 million sale does not mean everyone that's right there is $20 million, but.
just
no.
wanted to put that out there,
No,
because
I
it's been
agree.
hanging in the back of my head and I never chased it down.
Mhm.
Thank you.
But if that was the case, Chris, what could you do? I mean, you have to go by sales data.
We do.
You can't use anything else.
And we have to do sales data.
So what do you
from
do when you have an outlier? And again, I'll talk about Hyannisport because they just sold the Taylor Swift house.
Yeah, it's an outlier.
$12 million.
It gets factored in, but we're not putting 100%. We have what we call qualified sales that we want to concentrate on. The unqualified sales aren't forgotten about, but less weight could be placed on it.
Yeah.
But, we want to, our low-end outliers and our high-end outliers, we want to
Okay.
concentrate. We want to avoid foreclosures, family sales, stuff. We want an arm's length transaction is what they're looking for. Properly exposed to the market, willing buyer, willing seller, and those are the sales we want. And, an arm's length sale could be one of those high-end luxury properties, but we have other properties that are similar where they help us value those properties.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilor Burke, any questions?
No.
Well, Mr. Curran, I appreciate you coming and explaining your position and what you're doing, so thank you for
Thank you.
enlightening us, I appreciate it.
Awesome.
All
Appreciate it.
right. Moving on to the Comprehensive Financial Advisory Committee. We have Chris Lazan here to answer questions. Chris, thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I'll just kind of briefly describe what we do, I guess. So it's right in the name of the committee. We're strictly advisory. There's no regulatory function or anything like that. We review the budget of the town annually, the CIP, the operating budget. We issue reports. I brought a sample for anyone who wants to take a look. Fiscal 25, brief overview of all the budget of the town. So I know all the councilors saw that anyway. So that's what we do throughout the year. We issue several reports every year. Occasionally we do, present to the council as well. We do special reports sometimes, like on the Comprehensive Wastewater Management Program several years ago. And then at the request of the town council or the administration, we can do other projects. Betty recently asked us to look at the Wilkins Lane 2 project and review their assessment for financial information, which we're working on diligently with a tight deadline right now. But so that's what we do. It's really at the discretion of the council how much we do, other than these annual reports that we always do. So if Mark wants to add anything, or if you guys have any questions, that's all good.
Okay.
Yeah, if I may, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to add that, I find this group to be kind of like my sounding board, and another set of eyes for, big financial issues that the town may be facing. Most recently, for example, trying to prepare a funding plan for the comprehensive wastewater management plan. We developed a model, and I really needed to have another group take a look at it for soundness. And I proposed the idea of having this group, CFAC, review that. And so we spent several meetings reviewing the model, playing around with it to see it, to assess its functionality. How can we make it better? And that's been very beneficial to me and to the town as a whole, I think. And we've had assigned them other projects in the past, like reviewing our fiscal policy back during COVID, which was very helpful. having them review our solid waste transfer station operations, geez, almost a decade ago, I think, or more, which was very helpful to the council at the time. And so I think it's a good group to keep on board. They serve a really good function for the community. And yeah, so I just wanted to add that, Chris. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, I'll start off. When I was a new counselor, I sat in on the meetings. I think that was in before, or maybe Chris was just coming on there, just because I wanted to get smarter on money. And now I've been the liaison since Craig Tamish stepped down. So I was there when Mark presented his model, and that was an amazing discussion. I mean, it was beautiful, the interplay between Mark and the committee. I mean, I can't say enough good things about CFAC, and that's why I came to Chris. I think, Chris, you know about it. I'll just let people know, the Wilkins 2 project is going through the Zoning Board of Appeals. It went through the Cape Cod Commission, and part of that is a fiscal analysis. If we all understand, they pay a certain amount of taxes, but that's not really what they pay, because there's a lot of services attached to a residential unit that size. So a fiscal analysis is done, and I asked the CFAC to cross-check it. Because when the attorney for the Wilkins 2 first presented, he says, well, you're gonna get $800,000. I said, well, wait a minute, no, we're not. That's not the real number. And when he came back at the second meeting, he says, well, it's more like 500,000. So I'm asking the CFAC to look at it, because there's a lot of levers that you can pull in these analyses. If you don't have that many families, then you're gonna get more tax revenue. Because when you start putting families in there, you've got the school budget and other things that factor in. So are we getting the housing we need, or are we getting the housing they want as a developer to enhance their income? And there's a lot of levers to pull, and that's why I've asked them to look at that. And I know we've got like apartments going on Main Street, they're all gonna be 1 bedrooms. And that's okay, but if we're all 1 bedrooms, where are the families? You know, so we have to look at this stuff in a very comprehensive way, and that's why I've asked them to look at that and see, you know, what the analysis says. And a town of our size, we have a city form of government. We don't have a standing Ways and Means Committee. Most municipalities of our size have a standing Ways and Means Committee that is staffed by councilors. So I kind of look to them, and I'd like to see them engage more in terms of doing the analysis. For example, we just had the recreational marijuana, and we had the proponents stand up there and do a wild thing of numbers from here to here. Which number is right? Are we to believe the proponent? In my estimation, that should have gone through the Ways and Means Committee to really show us what we've done. I remember some years ago, Mark Milne made a presentation when this was discussed that, you know, when you get a certain level, you start to dilute the revenue among the various towns. So this is the kind of study I would love to see the CFAC look at the recreational marijuana before it comes back to us, or as it goes through the town. But I don't know what you guys think, but I think without a Ways and Means Committee, we really need these guys to step forward, and I'd like to hear what Mark would think about that in terms of, you know, what his staff does and what they do, and how we could make it maybe a little bit more robust. I don't know how you feel. I have a level of discomfort when I don't understand the numbers and what's behind them, and I don't really want the proponent telling me their numbers. I don't mind that, but I want to trust and verify the system available. So that's my 2 cents on
I would
this.
agree with you. I think the committee's very important, and we fill a critical function. There is a practical limit of how many things we can review.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
But obviously, the more important things, it is important to have a review, you know, a more objective review, not just numbers from whoever's proposing it.
And with the impetus we have within the town on large apartment complexes, I want to really understand these numbers. I think we have to understand these numbers. And again, what are we building? What are we building? Are we building ourselves out of families? Maybe we are. Do we want to do that? Or do we want to take the hit and get less tax revenue and say, please, more 3 bedrooms? I don't know. That's why I'd love to see how you can manipulate these levers and see what they did to come up with their mix.
Right, yeah, strictly, you know, again, apartments and things like that, our function just would be the fiscal end of it, obviously, not
yes.
should it be built or should it not be built,
No,
but what
it's
is the impact?
what is the impact?
Right.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, and I know the committee would be happy to do more of that. As we're structured, it is at the call of the council or the administrator
Right.
to take on these projects. We don't really take things on our own.
Yeah.
There needs
No,
to be
you
some
don't.
kind of directive, yeah.
Well, what do you guys think of the marijuana piece? Are you comfortable with these range of numbers? You just say, oh yeah, it'll bring us tax revenue, whatever. I mean,
Go ahead.
I happened to do a little research in it, and I do think that it will bring us revenue, but, you know, that would be speculation to say what, or to what extent. And I did check to see what the landscape is looking like on the Cape, and the towns of Barnstable, Yarmouth, and Dennis, none of the 3 have a dispensary, and the speculation is with the dense population in the Mid-Cape that a dispensary in one of those towns will probably be very lucrative given the population base, and that we're because it's legal in Massachusetts and it's legal in our neighboring towns, their neighbors are benefiting from the revenue, and it's not keeping anybody from Barnstable from going to another town. It's not stopping anyone from engaging in cannabis products. It's more just forfeiting the revenue that we could be getting. That's my take on it in general, but as far as hard numbers, if CFAC can look at it, it might be helpful data or analysis to have, but I'm not sure it would be anything that would change my vote.
yeah, no, I'm not saying that. I just think it'd be better because, you know, we've all learned that the impact numbers, towns aren't getting that anymore.
Right.
Because there is no impact.
And
So that's not coming. So it would be nice. I don't know. I just see this hole because we don't have a Ways and Means Committee. So I lean on them, and I enjoy being, and even if I wasn't the liaison, I'd still listen in, because if you don't have an understanding of these numbers, it's just hard to make decisions.
Well, why don't we have a Ways and Means Committee?
There you go. Let's talk about that in the strategy. I don't know, Mark, what do you think? Did we ever have a Ways and Means Committee in this town, or no?
No, we've never had a Ways and Means. And I mean, some of your larger cities like Boston, Worcester, Springfield, I think they may have Ways and Means committees, which are made up of counselors.
Yeah.
And you know that could be that would have to go through a formal. I refer to Karen Ober on this, but I think you would have to go through a formal process of creating such a committee and assigning counselors to it.
It'd be a standing committee.
Yeah, it's a
standing committee, exactly. Yep. And you would define what that role of that standing committee would be, and it may be that any item that comes before the town council that has a fiscal impact, that committee would review that fiscal impact.
Well, it's like what. Sorry.
Oh, go.
This is what we were talking about last time, right? When it comes to how do we better empower the committees or better direct the committees to do things. Like, for instance, on our agenda today, you know, I wonder, so we have the Board of Assessors come to see us, which is in my opinion, for no purpose, because they're statutorily, I mean, there's no purpose at all. I thought we were gonna do more of the committees that we have some control over, and more of those committees that we are concerned with their productivity and whether they're actually functional or not. The Board of Assessors, you don't have a choice, they're just gonna do their thing. Comprehensive Financial Advisory Committee is functional, you know, clearly. But we should have those broader strategic conversations about, like you say, what is it that we're looking for out of these committees? We could give the Comprehensive Financial Advisory Committee more work, possibly. But like, for instance, as you say, you, Betty Lucky alone, asked them to review the Wilkins. Is that a charge that they're gonna take on?
I didn't ask alone. I went through the leadership of the leadership.
Yes, it went through leadership, yes.
Right, so, but like, I didn't have any input on that. Is that a directive of the council? Do you see what I mean? So that's one way, because we talked about how does that filter from the council to, you know, how does the workload get assigned and distributed to these committees. I had no idea that you guys asked me to do that.
Well, that's why I'm bringing this up with the Ways and Means. It would be strictly a council thing, but
Right.
this is essentially our Ways and Means Committee.
Right.
And that's why I'm asking Mark, could they take on more? Do you think they could take on more from the council to help us when we have these items come forward to better understand? I mean, our numbers, I watched that comprehensive waste management plan and I see your levers that you're doing there, and you're right on the hairy edge there. I mean, you pulled a few levers and you kept us above the line. But boy, it's really critical that we do some analysis and kind of get this thing right so we don't end up in a bad place.
Yeah, certainly, the Comprehensive Financial Advisory Committee, they meet twice a month, once a month in the summer. Pretty much what they're assigned right now, it keeps them busy. With maybe a couple of 2 or 3 added projects over the course of a given year. And Chris, if you think you could take on more, certainly pipe in. But we got to remember we have 3 vacancies, I think, on the committee right now. We have some of them are volunteers. Retirees who travel a lot, so they don't make every meeting. It's difficult. We don't want to give them too much, which might end up members leaving if they feel that the workload is just too much. We did increase the size of the committee because we were trying to assign them more responsibility. I think we're up to 9 members now. We used to be 7. But we're having difficulty getting all 9 seats filled, which affects their ability to produce reports. So we got to be cognizant of not assigning too much.
Yeah, I would say we certainly will take on projects when things crop up that have a significant impact on the town's finances. But, to review every single project that comes through is not practical for us as a volunteer group that meets twice a month.
Right.
We have our standard reports that we do no matter what. And then something like the CWMP or this Wilkins project, things like that, or even the recreational marijuana. If you want us to take a look at that as a special project and draft a report, that would be fine. It's just we can't take on too many different things because obviously there's time constraints. And like Mark said, a lot of the members are retirees who travel. I work full time, so there's a limit to how much we can do. But certainly we're willing to take on more when it's a significant project that the town council wants some more insight on.
Thank you. Thank you for your volunteer service. It comes across very sincere and useful to us as counselors. I especially valued your analysis that pointed out the savings the town of Barnstable could have if we adopted flow neutral, and that was a big deal. What, $11 million, I believe?
Yeah, a lot. And to Mark's point about that model, that really has come in handy for a lot of those things. You can change all those numbers. It was yes flow neutral, no flow neutral. So it really shows the impact those things have on the town's finances.
Sure. And just so for Betty, I hear you about Ways and Means, and thank you, Mark, for the information that it's likely those committees are likely in the form of government for the big cities, but those big cities have full-time counselors who get paid $120,000 a year, not $600 something
I know.
dollars a month that we make or something like
Well,
that.
we have a pretty significant budget.
But I'm saying as counselors,
As counselors,
we do a lot of heavy lifting.
We're like you guys.
Yeah, no, you guys are essentially volunteers
we get a
as well. You get a
stipend,
very
you're right.
minimal stipend.
Barely
Yes.
pays for gas and ink and toner, But that aside, I'm just saying that we
Yeah.
don't have the Ways and Means structure, and if we were full-time counselors, we would be in a different position to take on
Right.
more committee assignments. But I do value what the CFAC does, and I think that it was very compelling to bring forward that information when we were considering adopting flow neutral. So for issues like that, I think it was a significant step in financial savings for the town. So I appreciate that.
Well, I think Seth brings up a good point of, what will be the process? Maybe we need to talk about that of asking the CFAC to step in and help,
Right, or
help
we
us
can
out.
always establish other committees, there could be standing committees, we could create new committees. I mean, I think that, I know you're here, Chris, and I'm not trying to, I don't wanna like divert from the fact that we're talking to you about the Comprehensive Financial Advisory Committee. But this particular committee, we need to take a strategic approach to what it is we're trying to do and how we're going to, because we could have Chris come and we know that they're doing fine work, we know that they're taking their charge seriously. The assessors, we have no control over them, more or less. We have some committees that we dealt with already that we've talked to about how we can reconstitute or reinvigorate or to improve their operational capabilities through the liaison with the town, meaning however we talked about with the possible health and human services position and all that sort of thing. I think we should be using these meetings to determine a strategic framework for how we're going to utilize all these committees. And obviously, maybe CFAC has enough to do in their particular realm. But as a function of our strategy, we could see that maybe we're missing committees. Initially, we went into this process, and I know, not necessarily my opinion, but other people's opinions perhaps, that there are too many committees. And we say, well, then we can't have rooms for them. We can't have recordings for them. And we'll never find the volunteers. But there are obviously areas that we are totally blind in, that we have blind spots. Like ways and means, like functional health and human services, and other things that we have yet to discern that may be obvious after we talk about it for a while. But so, as I said, not to cut away from the conversation about what the CFAC does, but like for us, we should, this agenda, we have two committees that we essentially know what they do and they're doing fine and we're gonna talk about them. We haven't met in over a month. And I think we really need to talk about the strategy and what it is that we're trying to do with this committee. And I, for one, would like to see us make some kind of, as I said last time, some kind of framework for a recommendation from us to the council of a process for directing the work of a committee on a particular topic. Because as it is, it's all well and good that the Wilkins is an important project to you and to others, and therefore you want to have the Comprehensive Financial Advisory Committee look at it, but I don't think that going and saying it to Chris, he says it to Craig, who says, okay, yeah, go have them do it. Do you know what I mean? Because that doesn't represent, it has no, I haven't said anything, there's 9 other people that may have input on how we should be spending our resources in a busy committee such as the Comprehensive Financial Advisory Committee.
I think that's actually a good point, because even when you had emailed me, I wasn't clear if the town council needed to take a vote to direct us.
Chris did ask
So
that
I'd have to
question.
look at the
Yes.
charter and see exactly how it's
And it may
written.
not even be enumerated in the charter, but that's what we need to work on.
I don't think
Yeah,
it
it's
is.
probably very vague in the charter, it's just, at the direction of the town
Of course.
council or administrator.
And as
I
time
believe.
goes on and things become more regimented, and we're already trying to function on a more professional level insofar as, the conduct of the council and making our new rules and all of our committees and whether everything's recorded or not recorded, are we adhering to the open meeting law, are there minutes being posted, or, all of that stuff. So it's just a, continuing consolidation of how can we make it, more professional, more predictable, and more equitable for all.
I think that's good. Why don't we use the time? We're here, let's
Well,
have
that's
these
what I
discussions.
mean, yeah, because like as much as I want to talk to you guys about what's going on, I know you guys are doing a good job, and I know the assessors are doing what assessors do. It's not very salacious; they just do their assessing. But we had a really good meeting with the Health and Human Services Committee
Yeah,
or
that
whatever
was
that
very
got us
robust.
thinking about it.
Yes,
And I think we should really discuss that. That's what we should be doing.
okay.
And
I'm
as I
not
said,
opposed
not
to
to
that.
Shanghai.
No, I hear what you're saying for
Yeah.
sure, yeah. No, I was happy to come and talk to you guys, but like you say, we have our function and
Yeah,
we're
you guys are doing
performing
great.
it,
You're not
so
one of the committees that
thank
I
you.
would think of as being non-functional. And though you may not have all the volunteers you need right at the moment, you've got a solid core group of people who are all committed, and some
Yes.
of them have been there for ages.
Yeah, we have a really great group that does a great job. I think there's 2 vacancies, but one of them should be filled at your
I
next
think
meeting.
one just, was
Yeah.
on the agenda.
It's on the
Yeah.
agenda but got pushed off, so.
Right.
Yep, we always need more people, but we have a great group that's together.
Absolutely. And we got lots of people, I don't know lots, but we got people in the pipeline. People always want to volunteer, right, Cindy? She's not, no. Anyway,
Are we all set for CFAC with Chris?
I am, thank you.
Good.
I think so, yeah.
I appreciate it.
Chris, thanks for coming.
Thank you very much,
Appreciate your
guys.
time.
Have a good night.
You're welcome to stay.
Oh, that's all right. I've got other things to do. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, everyone. Night.
Well, I think we ought to move on, what Councilor Burdick is talking about. Maybe we should talk a little strategy right now.
Absolutely, because we have the strategic planning coming up in September.
Yeah.
So this would be a wise time to start thinking about that because this is so important to use our committees effectively and have them all be functional. I think you're right, the human services ones, I mean, that really stands out as one that's not functional right now.
Yeah.
And how do we best use, people are volunteering, they're taking their time.
Yeah, and there's so many different areas that human services touches on, like you say, and not to go back to what we already talked about. Like,
Yeah.
it's just that, even when it comes to housing and Wilkins Lane and whatever, there's a human services aspect to the services that are necessary for a given building.
Yes, there are.
How does that all work together, what are the services? So, I just think that we, as we talked about last time, that we could recommend to the council, a strategy for our interaction with the committees, whether that would be, what would that be? Would that be, it wouldn't be a town council rule necessarily, but it could be would it be a bylaw that would say that the proper avenue for assignment to a standing board committee or commission of the town is the thing. That does it have to go in as a, from a procedural standpoint, we could say, we gotta discuss it and vote on it.
Yeah, I think it would go in as an agenda item,
Right,
and
and
it's
not-
similar to what happened with the marijuana stuff last Thursday, where it was a vote of you all to request that the town manager ask the planning board. It would be something similar to that, where you would all agree, or there would be, a majority vote that that's something that you want that committee to take on. So I think whoever, for instance, Councilor Lucky could say, I think the Wilkins project would be great for CFAC. I'd like that on the agenda, and then there would be a discussion and then a vote to ask that committee to take that on.
Yeah, I think that would have been a more robust process. We're up against a little bit of time on that one, but I like that. I mean, we were doing the rules, you were on the rules, I think you were. But, we were very careful about the liaisons.
Right.
That they need to keep that separation. So we can't really use that mechanism if we're comfortable with what we did there, but you're right. Strategically, we ought to be, but again, I keep saying ways and means, but with the budget of our size and our challenges with our CWMP taking so much of it, we have to be so careful.
Right.
We really need to be careful and have good understanding of what we're doing.
And then what's the best way? So if we weren't to call it ways and means, or if there were, go back one moment. So if something like that would appear in the, like, where would you, as a procedural
Who would put it
thing?
in, how would it get in the agenda? I mean, somebody would just,
I don't think somebody would bring it up like you'd put anything else on the agenda, right, during your agenda review meetings?
Agenda setting meetings.
How would you codify it though? Would it be in the rules?
I don't know that it would be codified, I think,
It's just-
because
Agenda
it's
setting
just,
is freelance, it's sort of a consensus.
but I think what Councilor Burdick is trying to say is in the strategy, the processes that you would all go about engaging the committee in however, one or two councilors would say that they would like that to happen. So again, using Councilor Lucky as an example, she would come to the agenda setting meeting or maybe somebody she speaks with goes to the agenda setting meeting and says, this is an important issue that I think would be great for the CFAC to look into. And then it's a conversation and then it goes on the agenda. In terms of codifying that process, I don't know that it needs codification, and it's definitely something that I can think about and look into.
Yeah.
But I think it would be too much to put that into the town rules, because I think that opens up a can of worms of like a lot more things going into the town rules, do you know what I mean?
Right, and I understand that. It would be, then there'd be no, you could still do it, would just be, custom.
Exactly, that's kind of what I would think of it as, would be like a customary, like similar, again, to the other night when
Right.
you voted to ask Mark Mills to do something.
Just symbolic.
But yeah, I mean, let me kind of take it under advisement, see
Yeah.
what my team thinks about
Yeah,
it.
because you never know. I mean, maybe there's nothing. I would like to see it so that we at least know that there's a process for doing such a thing. So then we can, sit at the meeting, and granted, we don't want to necessarily add a whole heck of a lot more to our meetings, but if someone thinks that's a waste of time, they can get up and say that. Say, I don't think that CFAC should be doing that.
That'd
I
be
think
a
they
good
should
time
be
to have the
doing other thing."
discussion.
That's what I mean.
Well, let's look at the CFAC again. How much value do you get out of those summaries they do?
Right.
Do
I mean,
you
like the
get
ones
much
that they put
value
out
in-
into
yeah.
the town, personally, not so much,
Not
because
so
I'm
much,
a.
I agree. I like it when they target something and they bring
Right.
it to light. I mean, as I said, I watched this discussion where Mark Milne presented his model.
Yeah.
It was brilliant.
Absolutely.
And you saw these lines move like, ooh, don't do that, don't pull that lever, go back up, you can't do that. You know, that's what I like. Do I need a summary?
Right.
I don't think I need a summary because I've also watched the CFAC meetings where they're talking to the department heads and there isn't a whole lot of digging, okay? And I even asked Mark Milne, I said, how often do you audit what the department heads give you? Never.
Right, they just put it in the
They just
report.
put it in.
Yeah.
So is that the value? So I would rather have them, spend a little more time on some of the stuff that we're dealing with so we can make really prudent fiscal decisions. I mean, it always comes up at the meeting. We have several counselors are always talking about money.
Right.
We can't do this because of the money. Well, where are you getting that from? Where's your analysis?
I should ask Chris while he was here, how much time do they spend preparing the
That's what they do
that document that they
forever.
put out, right?
Meeting after meeting, they put together a subcommittee
Mhm.
and they meet all through the winter.
And
Months.
that's for the pamphlet that goes out.
Yes,
and you find
that's
it.
probably a 6-month effort, if
Really?
not more, yes.
That's remarkable. That
And
seems
that's
like
what
a-
they do.
Right, I mean, I shouldn't say that, Mark's on here, couldn't you make a printout that would take like a fraction of the time and you just send out? That just, I mean, we do
Well,
a
it's
big budget.
for
work.
us.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it is for the townspeople too, but
Right.
do you get a lot of value out of it, John?
I get some, yes.
Yeah.
To
I mean, it
more of
makes
a
it
perspective
easier
of what
to
we're-
digest.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
who were we meeting with on the appointments committee that we were gonna appoint? That was
Frank
saying
Ward.
about how Frank Ward,
Yeah.
who was a numbers, an information and numbers man, and was saying that same thing, that when you have this, he had the one that goes out, the public one, that, just that summary that you can find, I remember they used to drop them off in the coop
Yeah,
years ago, but he's like, these numbers make no sense to anybody.
they make no sense to anybody,
And the
yeah.
layperson doesn't understand any of this, but they're gonna see this one number and they're gonna understand that because of what it says and what it is. But the rest of it, they're just, it's all lost to them. That you can accomplish the same thing with a very limited amount of information that you can't, because most of it is just gonna go right past people if you make it too detailed. Wasn't that what, you're on the appointments committee, aren't
No,
you?
I'm not.
I was, I'm no longer.
I'm on the appointments committee.
Remember at the meeting the other day? It was
Yeah.
maybe a month ago. Anyway,
Well, maybe we ought to
So-
consider strategically, who's the audience?
right.
Is the audience, I always do that pyramid, is it audience, the residents of the town of Barnstable? Or is it us who are
Right.
trying to make decisions for the residents to keep fiscal responsibility?
Right. It's true.
Who's the audience?
It's both, I think, in my opinion. I
Okay.
mean, some people are more detailed oriented and are willing to dig in. I get requested now and then for more information. The website isn't transparent enough, or we could have more meeting materials that supported a meeting, not just an agenda and the minutes. That has been requested of me,
You're talking about the town council,
various committees.
various
Yeah.
committees.
Well, however that is, I mean, whatever maybe it makes more sense to reorient. That's it, but it goes to the point. How do we direct the committees? That's the thing.
All the
That's the
committees.
question. How do we direct all the committees?
The committees already have their charge in the code.
Right, well, not argued. We disagreed about this last time.
Oh.
It's not about their charge, meaning their broad charge, their enabling legislation, whatever you wanna call it. It's about the focus of their activities
Yes.
within that charge. It has nothing to do with what their actual function is. It's how do you best utilize them within the scope of that charge? So how do we, the council, use the committees more effectively in order to accomplish some of the work that we are? It's just like when, and I may have made this point last time, our housing, the accessory dwelling unit thing. That should have gone to a committee so that we didn't have that long, in my opinion, frustrating and embarrassing conversation at the meeting. You know what I mean? That could have come out all together done, and then we could have just nitpicked a few things and then moved on. Not like, which one are we on? Two, like B, like. But so that's what I'm trying to illustrate, and I don't know how we would do that.
Wouldn't it be beneficial if there's a counselor that has a concern, such as Councilor Lucky, who's looking at the Hanover 2? She took the initiative to go and ask. If there's other counselors, wouldn't you go to the liaison of that committee and say, hey, I have an idea, this is something that I'm passing through, and then that liaison?
Well, we wanted to keep the liaisons out of the liaison is a reporting role.
Well, then your direct request would go to leadership.
Yeah, but that's what I just said that I don't want to have be a thing.
So I
He
think
wants the broader
there's
council.
I think there's two ways these things can come up. One, again, you have an idea, you say, I'm gonna bring this to the council, let's put it on the agenda. But then I do believe it's within your authority to refer things to these committees. I think that's exactly what
it.
your
I'm
like one of your
trying to
purposes
figure
is.
out how do we make
I
that a
think
practice.
that when you're talking about something like marijuana, recreational marijuana last Thursday, and Councilor Lucky has a concern about the finances and says, I'd like some internal review of this, you know, I'd actually like to move to refer this to CFAC. I think to Mark Milne's point, you have to be careful and very cognizant about what you are referring to committees and don't overdo it, right? Because then you get some overwhelmed volunteers.
Right.
But, and then also to Councilor Burdick's point, their charge, so long as you're referring something that is within their charge, which is set in the code and some statutorily, I think you're well within your rights to do so. So in an instant like on Thursday, maybe that's an option. Maybe you say, oh, I'd actually really like this to go to CFAC. You know, what do my fellow counselors think? And you talk about it and then vote on it. I think that that's another way, because it might come up in the middle, you know.
You're saying it could just come up at a meeting without being on the agenda.
I think so, because I don't know that, and I'll look into it, but I don't know that it needs to be on the agenda that you're gonna refer an issue to a committee.
Because the topic's on the agenda anyways.
Yeah.
So it's on the
But
floor
what
for
if it
discussion.
So rather than, I think the
Topics,
topic
well,
would have
that's-
to be on the agenda.
That's what Seth is saying. Most topics, if they're coming to the council, all these reviews should have been done. You
Yeah,
know?
so, yeah, I
Like
mean,
his
it's,
example with the ADUs, I mean,
Yeah.
it should have been a much cleaner.
I don't even know exactly what I'm trying to, the process is that I'm trying to, create. But other than maybe just a recommendation, because our charge here is to make a recommendation or to recommend a course of action. So
Well-
that's what I'm thinking, like.
Well, there's another one that just came up, the regulatory agreement, development agreement with Shoestring Properties, okay?
Right.
If you remember what the proponent said, he came up and he said, well, this went through the housing committee and they told us we have a desperate need for 3-bedroom units. I don't know if anyone's remembering this, he said this. And so we're gonna do the 3-bedroom units because we don't have any 3-bedroom units down there, so we're gonna do that. So that should be, on that agenda item, there should be an incredibly strong recommendation with their backup. But that's why I was saying with Chris, are these developers doing smaller units to make more money? You know what I'm saying? It's all connected. So where's the housing committee coming up with that data? What's the data that support we need 3-bedroom units? And then why aren't we putting that on the Wilkins 2, on everything else? Why is it just going to Shoestring? We just don't look like we're connected. And that's,
Right, and then, well, and then.
it's bizarre to me. We're not connecting the dots enough to come up with, where did they get that from? I'd like to say, we should have said, I don't know, I didn't watch, were you there when they reviewed this, the housing? Were you there when they reviewed this, the development agreement?
No, I wasn't.
Okay,
I never
so,
watched it. But I mean, so in that case, but that one goes to went to the planning board and they said it was okay too, so then it's like, and not to say to support or not support
Yeah.
that, for me, I just, my vote, I'll vote on the night, but, I guess, at least it went through the planning board. So in terms of this process and in terms
Yeah.
of this whole thing, you'd hope that they would make the right call. And we still have the right to say no.
yeah,
I think we gotta get more stuff out to people and committees so that we have at least some kind of basis. And like, if you don't have the planning boards, it's just like when I was asking, Mr. Hirschler about the medical or the recreational marijuana overlay district thing. Well, I didn't watch that meeting of the planning board, though I watched them sometimes, I don't watch
Yeah.
every last one. I didn't know what the rationale from the planning board's rejection was. Maybe I got an email, one of the hundreds of emails that I get about it, and I perused it and then went past it. But, like, supporting documentation regarding the referral to a committee in the agenda or in the attached documents. Because then I hear, oh, no, it was Judge Twist that said that
he was the one
marijuana's
that I
the
think
devil.
really,
Or, you know,
I
like-
attended that meeting.
he was the one who really pushed it.
But what I'm, and like that, though we have
But
that
you're right, we
package.
didn't have that. We
Yeah,
didn't
you have
that.
just you have the rationale and the financial impact and the copy of the blank, the unfilled out.
Right, petition.
Petition, why can't it, there we go, petition. But you don't have any more background. And I realize the agenda's already 300 pages long at that meeting, but that's a whole other problem. But that we're getting that the information is getting out there, a one-page summary that anything that's been referred to a committee comes back with a one-page summary, and if it's gonna appear on the agenda, that it have that summary attached, because then you think 13 of us are all gonna call them up and be like, so why did you?
I know, I
refer
think
that?
that, we can't all watch all these meetings.
Right.
We
It's
just
impossible,
can't.
literally impossible.
I think they need to be more robust, they
Right.
really do. It can't just be,
So these are the kinds of things, the kind of like directional things that I'm thinking that we can, other than to try and figure out which committees are broken and which ones are not, but what kind of those sorts of recommendations. We recommend that there be a predictable series of events or a predictable process for a committee referral on a given topic or agenda item. That there then be a predictable process or a predictable response from a committee, RE, an assigned item or agenda item, whatever. Like that kind of stuff.
To me,
I like that, yeah.
yeah, to me that, that we're not, I'm assuming you're not expecting, with the ad hoc committees, we have way over 43 boards, committees, and commissions that every committee needs to be directed on what to do. But if there's
Not
a
every
special.
last one, but I think that they should have direction. Again, you and I discussed this at length last time. I do think that they need direction.
I
mean,
think they do.
I mean, at least sometimes, at least they can have one overarching thing that they know that they've been directed to do, but they have time to do their other stuff. Like for instance, if we were gonna review committees and whether they're worthwhile, today we should have had on here the golf committee and the recreation committee instead of the CFAC.
We already had them.
Did we do golf? I don't
Yes.
think we did.
Yes,
I
we
miss
did. Well, there wasn't a lot to miss.
that? But I must have missed it, because if I don't,
Were you-
I have
was he
no
not here?
memory of that.
Was that the first
We
time
had
you
the
invited
recreation.
Chris
That
Ganella
was-
came in, didn't
It
he?
was May
Oh, no,
21st.
that was, we didn't have representatives from the committees, but we
No.
talked about them with Chris.
That's right,
Yes, I do remember that.
yes.
And that's why I don't have a specific memory of those, because I didn't meet anybody from those committees.
Chris said on the golf committee, it's just a reporting mechanism, they
Right.
just do reports.
So anyway, you get what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
You know,
Before we go on, we have a time definite or not on this meeting. We're supposed to be, is 5 to 6 or what's the deal, Cindy?
Yeah, no, I schedule them 5 to 6. The longer we stay, we just hold staff over.
Okay.
It'll be fine. It's
Our
one
film
day.
crew and our video crew and our town attorney.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, I just don't see the.
But the other thing to keep in mind too is that each committee has like a department head that like Jim Kuffner is, he'll handle planning, he handles housing, he
Right, yes,
handles.
this is obvious.
So if there's something that the council would like those committees that fall under that department head, would you not reach out to the department head and say,
What's six of this, half a dozen of the other? I mean, the direction has to come from the council and has to be a unified request for action. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't like the idea, and no offense to you guys, of Betty being able to say to Chris and Craig that I want the CFAC to work on this for 6 months now, or whatever, you know what I mean? And do you see, I think there should be
No,
a
I do
process.
see what you're saying, yes.
And we've done it this way for many years, obviously, but we're trying to make things more predictable, just generally across the board. That's what I would like to do.
yeah, the only reason why, and I can only speak to the 12 years I've been here, the only reason why it always went through leadership as a request was because if you've got 13 counselors out there requesting different things from different department heads,
Well, no kidding, but that's why it
None
would
of it is
appear at the meeting.
consolidated.
It's the same exact process, except there's a proven democratic method to do it, or there's what is essentially a customary way to do it. That the customary way to do it is to go to the president, whose powers are not enumerated really in the charter or the town rules, and really at all, that it's all just customary, that I think that it'd be better to have an actual process. Yes, there could be 13 people who could each go and say yes, but that's pretty much what's happening now.
and that's not the way it's supposed to happen, is what I'm saying.
I think maybe it's supposed to go through leadership and then leadership puts it on the agenda.
Yeah,
Well, that's what
there
I
is a
mean, but-
process in our agenda setting meetings.
Yeah.
And before that used to be a meeting of the president and the vice president, to my knowledge.
But there's no
with-
process to that either.
Can I
Because
finish,
it just
please?
means,
Let me
well, you go right
finish.
ahead.
Thank you. That in the past, there was just the president and vice president, no disrespect to any past president or vice president, and the town manager, whoever it was at the time. Now, the process has changed to become more democratic, to use your word, in that there is an invitation for other counselors to participate, as long as we're under a quorum. I mean, Karen
Right, so
Ober
then,
sits at
but
the meeting.
that in and of itself is undemocratic if you think about it, because you can't have enough to have a public meeting. So whoever 7 show up and I get kicked out because there's gonna be a quorum, or 5, then what I would suggest to the agenda, for the agenda, doesn't make it onto the agenda at all, because I can't attend. Nor can I email you all and be like, hey, at the agenda setting meeting, I wanna have my thing on there.
But you can email the town council president.
But then I can't
Okay.
be present at the meeting
Okay.
to advocate for myself.
Well-
So then by that same logic, 13 people will all show up and say, I want this, 13 different things. And Craig and you are gonna say, sure thing. They're all going
Isn't it
on
a
the
better
agenda.
process than what it was? I
I'm
mean,
not speaking, I mean, you could say that, Mike, but that's not what I'm talking about.
okay, but I'm just saying of these over 2 pages of boards, committee, and commissions, I don't anticipate telling each one of them what to do.
Why?
On an agenda, you want to discuss
Well,
43?
you don't have to do it consistently, continuously, but why not have a process? That's what I don't understand.
Well,
Why
we-
not?
For example, maybe half of these or a third of them are regulatory bodies that we shouldn't be telling
Right,
them
and
what
we
to do.
wouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, so,
But why not have a process for when you want to do it?
and I contend
what's
there
the
is one, you
harm?
just, you're not in favor of it. And you're welcome to put something forward at a council meeting.
But that's what Allison said, anyone can do anything from the floor, right?
I suppose so. All right, if you guys don't want it, if you feel no need to codify it or make a recommendation that that be the process, that's your prerogative.
I will look into what exactly the authority of the council is. I've said what I think it is, but if I'm wrong sometimes,
I
so.
think we should, I think Seth makes a good point about having a process. I think it's important because again, everybody is busy,
Right,
and if we're gonna use our resources,
I just don't understand why there would be intransigence on the idea of trying to use and have a system for using the committees more effectively. I don't see what logical opposition there could be to that.
I'm just trying to envision how we can improve on this, other than the 2 venues. One, that there is an agenda-setting meeting that's more open than it used to be. And secondly, that you can advance something from the floor of a council meeting. And actually, third, directly email to the council president on a request. I'm thinking
I
that.
get, but that, I mean, that's, yes, but why, even if those, all the three of those things are true, why not have a particular way of doing it? Like, we just,
The preferred way?
Yeah, like, I don't understand. We could go
Where
back and
would
forth.
that be
if we just-
codified? Where
But
would
that's what I asked Allison, and she's gonna look
Is
into
that
it.
in the code or is it in the rules? Where would that be?
I have to look into it. It seems like,
would be customary.
yeah, right, which I think Counselor Burdick would prefer it be in town council rules or,
Which we just shifted.
In the code.
Occurred to me then.
right,
I know,
I mean,
after our 10 meetings.
right. So yeah, it's definitely something
Yeah,
that
I mean, I'm just saying in
I
terms of
can't envision
recommendations.
it.
Just
I'm
in terms of
struggling.
recommendations, well, I'm sorry that you can't, but in terms of recommendations, I think that would be one thing that we may consider recommending. Or just adopting a strategic approach to how we use, I'm repeating myself.
Yeah, I mean, you
so
can,
on to the next thing.
perhaps you could amend the code and say where a counselor would like to advance or refer an item on the agenda or some topic that comes up at a meeting to a committee of a 2/3 vote. I mean, it could be something similar,
Yeah, just something.
some simple like that.
That's,
doesn't
I
have
would
to
go with
be-
that.
And it could just be at the top because
Yes.
of the ordinance that all the committees are already listed or were,
Right.
you know, so that's an idea and we haven't had our
As
next
Chris brought up,
town
when I
code
brought
meeting.
up this idea, Chris didn't know. He says, is this gonna go to the
Right.
town council? Is this gonna come from the
Because
president?
it seems
He
obviously
didn't know
logical to him
because
that
it hasn't
might-
happened.
that might be a process. So anything like that, in my opinion, improves transparency because you're
Yes.
never gonna be like, well, how did CFAC start working on that? Or how did, you know what I mean? Well, we know. It didn't go because Betty and Chris talked about it and then Craig said, go ahead and do it.
It was
It was at a meeting, it was voted on in the approved way, and then they took it on. It's not even a really big deal, I'm just saying.
So it could be something we take up at our next town code meeting.
Right, and I'm
Yes.
raring for that one to get going. I
Yeah,
don't
we
know
need to
when
get
we're gonna
going
have a
on
meeting
that.
there.
I can give you an update on that. I'm sorry, this is at your meeting. But it's on standby because the Ann Quirk recommended that we hire a company to review the code. The town manager found the money for it at the end of the year and right now the contract has been signed, but it's stuck at the town attorney's office.
Well, we could still be meeting for like philosophical discussions or, you know,
So the code committee-
spitballing.
Yeah, the code committee was going to run a program that looks for
Right, I'm familiar with it, we talked
inconsistencies.
about it, I was at the meeting when we talked
Okay.
about it. And
So I
that's
didn't
more
find
of
the
a,
need
that's
to
more
have
of
a
a
meeting until-
Scrivener's thing than it is, and it's an
No, no, it's
inconsistency
more-
with the mass general laws and stuff like that.
It's
But
more, yes,
it doesn't
extensive.
have much to do with the spirit and the philosophy of the code. Because obviously, I mean, just based on the conversations that have been occurring at the town council meetings and in communications that I see around the town, there are things that wouldn't be something that, like, cross-referencing between mass general law and everything else is gonna be, it's more of it's more of a philosophical approach to governance through the code than it is that technical aspect of it. So, I mean, we could be meeting and discussing that end of things and not be spinning our wheels just doing nothing for now months. Do you see what I mean? Do you understand what I mean between the technical differences and the philosophical differences and how we could be working on that side of things?
Not quite, but I'll talk to you about it after this meeting because it's not on this agenda.
But I think,
Reasonably anticipated. We have unanticipated.
I don't know, I think what Seth is getting to is really important, and I think our first commenter at our last meeting, Mary Ann Barbosa, kind of spoke to it, like, how do these things happen? That's all, it's a common refrain I hear from people. How do things happen? How do I engage? How do I get my voice heard? And then I thought, I gave the example at the meeting of Barry Scheingold, you know, that energy and infrastructure, they've done so much legwork on so many things. I mean, the green communities, the stretch code, and even the composting. They did an enormous amount of work, and now our town is gonna take on the composting. So I think Seth's really hit on something. I think we really wanna elevate this and make it more transparent, to task these committees, because that's where the machinations happen. That's where there's discussions. We can't possibly get into it at the council, but yet we do get a little bit into the weeds because we don't have
Right.
what Seth is talking. We don't have that one pager that goes, boom, this is what we did. And the housing committee, I mean, we had the presentation here, and I still think they're a little bit loosey-goosey.
Yes.
And I think we could direct, my God, with all of the apartments and things going on, they should be really on top of this stuff. My God. And, you know, that would help us with a lot of this stuff, to be more directive and more transparent. So I really like his idea, I do. And I think, you know, Allison's suggestion of maybe where to plug it in and to make really a point of it. You know, I think it was Jessica Rapgrassetti who inserted that place in the agenda for the reports. We hear about pancake breakfasts,
Right.
but it was supposed to be the reports. What are the committees doing?
Right.
Let's let people know
She
what
used
the
to call them
committees.
each one alphabetically, and there'd be
Exactly,
three.
and I haven't seen that since I've been here.
There'd be three listed on the agenda as reporting, coming to the town council to report what they've done.
When are they
I'll
doing?
share that with the council.
No,
president.
it hasn't been done since her.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It
So a
hasn't
lot of
been-
the wheels fell off during COVID and it's, and the,
Yeah,
and
but I
our
think
regular,
Seth's trying to get the wheels back on, and I think we'd all be better served, and we'd have committees.
well, now that the budget is passed, I'll pass the request on to the council president. It's the best I can do at this point to readdress the reports from boards, committee, commissions. And I'll just put it out there that there also has been no town report since COVID. So it's not just volunteer side of the house, it's the staff side of the house that, and I'm not impatient about it, I'm just saying that I think that it's on the to-do list, it's coming. But
But so
I hear-
this committee is not interested in making any kind of, how are we gonna phrase this recommendation? You know what I mean, do you wanna, we're gonna have a number of different recommendations, because that's our charge, obviously, right? So if we wanna make how would we phrase it? What would what do you think? How would we, you tell me, you're the lawyer, come on.
You're talking about this one in particular.
Well,
that
like
we've
say
been
for
talking
instance,
about.
just on that one, that how are we going to take we're gonna take a more directive approach, and we would like to create the system.
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of different ways that you can do it. The town rules and code committee, ad hoc committee could handle maybe codifying that, because presumably this committee will sunset before that one does, because we have a lot more work to do on that one. So maybe after these recommendations come out, one of those being, we'd recommend that there's a code change that reflects an actual process for how counselors vote to refer issues or topics to committees, boards, commissions. And you can give specific language within that recommendation, or you can keep it to a discussion amongst the council, depending on what you come up with here. Because you still can discuss how you choose to go about it, but I think the job of this committee really is to give some specifics or some recommendations and see what everybody votes on. But that's one way, I'd say. Another way would just be to suggest that there's a custom practice that everyone follows, right? That it's not codified. I think obviously you are more in favor of a codified process. So that's kind of, it just depends on how much detail you want to go into on your recommendation. At the very least, you want to recommend that there's one procedure to either bring something on the agenda or vote if an issue comes up that's already on the agenda. So again, Councillor Lucky wants to bring the Wilkins project on the agenda. It goes to leadership brings that to the agenda setting meeting, and it gets on the agenda, and then it's discussed, and then there's a vote to refer it to CFAC. Another opportunity, again, we're talking about recreational marijuana. Councillor Lucky says, well, I'd really like CFAC to take a look at this, and then there's a vote there. I think those are two very obvious scenarios that could take place, but again, if you wanted to recommend a specific vote that goes into the code, say, if you want to refer something to a committee, it has to be a majority, or it has to be 2/3, or whatever, those are really the
We
specifics.
do both.
But
We could recommend or make two recommendations. One be that that it be the custom, and then two, we would also like to recommend this code change.
sure, and exactly, because then you go to the council and it's a discussion, and maybe everyone's more in favor of sticking to that custom rather
Right.
than putting something in writing.
I would
in
like
writing.
to do that. I mean, that's something
I like
would
that, I
to
like
do.
what you just recommended, I don't know what you guys think, I think that's
Yeah.
smart.
Yeah, can I,
I was just gonna say, going by our last council meeting, we didn't get through the whole agenda. So adding more things to the agenda isn't always the solution. Part of it is depending
yeah,
on
I
what
think, yeah.
we have before us. Because we truncated a bunch of things that we're gonna have to revisit again.
It was a strategic error, that agenda.
That agenda was just enormous with things with enormous tentacles to them.
Yeah, I mean, imagine if we had gone and tried to do the local comprehensive plan. It would have been
No, I
till 4 in
understand.
the morning.
I
Like,
understand.
I saw that agenda and I was like, this isn't gonna work.
I understand, I'm just saying that things got queued up,
Well,
because we
it's-
were dealing with the budget.
It's tough when we just do the 2 meetings in the summer, I
Yeah, we
mean,
should
it
go
really,
back to doing,
I did suggest that to
maybe we need
the
to
council
stop that
president, and he said
process.
that he did not wanna go for a second meeting in July and August. So
we should all,
Maybe we should all talk about that, because it just jams everything up.
So there's also the hope too that when you're referring these things to those committees, as Councilor Burdick mentioned earlier,
cut back
it's
some of
gonna
this.
cut down on
It
the
will
time
cut
that you're
down on the
spending at the council
conversation.
meetings. You know what I mean? If you have those numbers from CFAC as opposed to
Right.
Mr. Hirschler at the
I don't
meeting,
need
right?
Mr. Hirschler telling me,
You have the numbers from CFAC, so
Right.
it really doesn't have to be as robust of a conversation.
that's
Or
true.
you can talk about other things.
Yeah.
That's one theory. I mean, I don't know if it works
I
out
think
that
that's
way,
what
but I
I'm going
think.
for, I want that, I wanna have a little more confidence. Yeah,
and there's always gonna be questions and uncertainty, but we have such, we have the ability to maybe give it a little bit of work ahead of time.
And-
Refine it.
I'll go back to the housing committee, because I've watched it a few times, I've sat there, and it sounds like the golf committee in terms of reporting.
Right.
And this is when we used to have our housing representative, and she would go there and she would report to them, here are all the apartments under construction, and then they'd have some discussion. And I distinctly remember they were so out of sync. It's when they were
Yeah.
talking about the important apartments at the landing. And the council everyone already knew those apartments weren't happening. And they had a half an hour discussion about the apartments at the landing. So, it would be much more helpful when we talk about, either we can engage with these committees or the staff can, but it seems by and large, the staff reports to the committees.
Right.
So what are I don't want to stifle innovation. I think the energy and infrastructure, they're pretty innovative. I don't want to stifle that
No.
because they're the ones that have been looking at the stretch code and the green communities and the composting and things like that. They're probably way ahead of us, but there needs to be, and I think you're going to bring a more robust process, but let's not forget the staff
Right.
in this. I don't want to bypass the staff.
No, and if they can,
In the
if they're
role.
keeping them humming good, then we don't have to.
If they're giving them the
Yeah.
information, then we can ask them to then
And they're driving.
go
the-
through that
Yeah,
information.
if they're driving the process. This is a scenario for when we need to move things along. We need
Yes.
to get people moving, and we say, listen, we are watching, we understand you need to do this because it's important to the town and you guys are the ones to
Yeah.
do it, so let's do it. You got 6 months.
My observation is that not all committees have staff support. I think that was the trouble with human
I
services
think
at
we're
one
the
time.
only ones that don't.
Okay, then maybe that.
Much, but hopefully we're gonna,
Well, they have it now,
we
'cause
can
I-
make that
I do
recommendation
it.
too.
You do it.
Because there was that whole conversation we had about, we in a way charged them with, they're gonna begin their process to try and research how they're gonna get themselves a staff
Right.
member,
Yes.
right? And how are we gonna have our maybe not, maybe human services.
Right. Yeah, and I know you're saying you're support, but you're not really support because you're not a human services.
I'm not a member, no, but
No,
what
no,
I.
no, you're not on the staff representing human services. Your expertise is not in human services.
No.
You're a scribe, I guess.
I do the agendas
Yeah,
and
so that's
schedule their
different.
meeting minutes and send out correspondence to the committee
I mean, if you
members.
look at the zoning board of appeals, I mean, their staff person,
have a
they
number.
write everything for them. They're just reading it off. I mean, it's not like they're writing it, they're
It's
reading
all
it.
technical
They
text.
have
very
like three
technical.
staffers on
Exactly.
supporting them at
Okay.
And
times.
that could be a further recommendation. We could recommend that in order to better support an individual committee, like the Health and Human Services Committee, that it is the recommendation of the Committee on Committees that, how would you phrase it? Because they're already gonna be working on this because we already talked about it. But that how would you say it, the capability of the town must be expanded in such a way as to facilitate the Human Services Committee,
Yes.
something of that nature.
So you're saying in terms of staffing,
Yeah, like it
that they
would
should be
be-
more proportionate to.
To other
across the
committees
board.
that are doing similar work and have much more support. We have a hole where there's no human services. We don't have to say we must have a human services department, but that there needs to be some kind of accommodation made in order to make this a functional committee, in order to fill the need that is created by its non-functionality. Very bizarre way to put it,
Do you
but
foresee us recommending committees sunsetting?
We already have.
Yeah,
Well, those ones.
Yeah.
just the dead ones, right?
Yeah, we did that,
We took-
those were,
we took
but
them
I
off
mean,
the
other
website.
ones that are.
Well, that's what we need to discuss. I believe that's what Seth was suggesting, that we focus on those that are, how do I say, not so obviously,
Some that are, less functional, right?
Yeah.
obviously
I mean,
productive.
through the lens of also facilitating them and directing them, I don't know that that is necessary. And if we're gonna try, before we get rid of
Well,
them, maybe we should try.
how would you facilitate, how would you direct the golf committee?
Exactly, so there's one. So, I don't know if that's, so yeah, I guess you're right. I mean, maybe there's that. So I wouldn't take it off the table. I see what you mean. The golf, I mean, not being a golfer or a sportsman, maybe they know something, I don't know what they're up to, but I see what you mean. So maybe there are some that do need to go. But there are, I think, some that can, through direction and increased facilitation of their charge, that they can be very good and functional.
It strikes me that not all the committees are gonna be able to, or be in a position to provide recommendations or data to the council for upcoming agenda items. Like, I'm not so sure waterways will be able to weigh in on something, except when an issue comes up, like the Coast Guard,
We have the
Well,
weir
that's-
coming up.
the weir
But
and
that's
the,
exactly the point. That's exactly what I'm saying. We're not gonna ask them about waterways about housing. We're gonna ask waterways about waterways.
Well, they certainly have they have an impact on the health of our water. I mean, I sat in on the waterways, or was it shellfish maybe? Maybe it was shellfish. And they had a good discussion about the health
Right, I mean, like,
of the,
they all have their expertise. So yeah, we're not gonna ask them to work on random things. It'll be things that are inside of their wheelhouse. There'll be something that'll come up at some point, I mean, for the Waterways Committee to assist us on. Like, who knows what it could be? It's impossible to say, but there'll be something, or we could ask them, oh, well, no, we talked about that in executive session, so I can't say that, but you know what I mean, there'll be something that will, foreseeable, that's why we have all these committees. Anyway, I wanna get something on paper, and so that we get like first down, whatever, and can then go to the next thing.
well, I think
'Cause
if Allison can work on this,
Yeah, I think I was just looking, seeing if there was anything in the code at all, but I mean, I think.
Yeah, probably not.
There's not.
It's kind of vague, it's kind
or
of-
maybe there's another municipality that has a good strategy.
Yeah, I just wonder,
It's been a good
I wonder
research.
if it's very, like, a simple answer that.
Yeah, that's what I'm
well,
saying.
a lot of these municipalities, they don't
Because
have to be big. Remember Greenfield has standing committees, of counselors.
Right.
That is the model. for ones that are of a comparable size. So we have a different model, so we have to figure out how to use this model if we're sticking with it.
But
I'll look into the best way that other communities, that we can, or that you all can refer issues to committees, boards, and commissions, and then come back.
But I wanna, I just want that to be, I don't know if I can move that and we can vote on it, but I would really like that to be a recommendation in whatever form it takes.
Yeah, I think we have a couple already voted on, correct? So
Yeah.
I think once I can confirm that would be legitimate, I think it is, but again, I wanna look at it, then you could probably make that motion.
That's fine. And then I really also think that we need to work out a language for a recommendation to what I was saying before about like health and human services, about in order to not rehabilitate this committee, but in order to
Energize.
maybe yes, but not like yes, energize, but not that word exactly. In order to to energize this committee or to make this committee functional, that we have to create some sort of facility for them with the town. There has to be some kind of
There has to be.
some kind of interaction.
There's just no point.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no point.
With staff.
Yeah, if it be step, but keep it vague, because then they're gonna work on it. Hopefully, they're gonna come back with something that will be a financial package, because they have that very capable young lady who did all that stuff in
Right.
New York. And they're all very smart, they're gonna come up with something that we can get on a financial picture of what it's gonna be to bring this facilitator thing online, where it's gonna fit, how they're gonna do it, and then something we can debate and vote on, so that then we can have, maybe we'll have our own little, whatever comes of it. But some sort of recommendation that specifically as it pertains to Health and Human Services Committee, that we need to facilitate.
Yeah, I think Counselor Lucky last meeting that I was at, because I think I missed the last one, you said something that they need somewhere to plug into.
That's
Yes.
precisely.
And I think
whatever
that's-
that, yeah,
yes.
that's.
Yeah, I think that illustrates what you're trying to get
Yes, I can't speak anymore today, I guess I'm done. Head.
Okay, let's move on to approve the minutes of June 10th.
Yeah, no, remember I told you the June 10th minutes was the meeting that we canceled? So
Okay.
there's no set to approve, because that was the meeting that was rescheduled. So the next set of minutes that need to be approved will be on your next agenda.
Okay,
And those will be the May 21st that I gave to the committee to review and take home tonight.
okay,
So there's no set to vote on.
okay. The other thing is, next items for the meeting coming up, whenever we schedule.
Agenda items for the next meeting?
Yes,
I mean, for me, I would like to have some, you could, for my part, well, under you guys, of course, follow up on those 2 points that I
Okay.
made, that we'll have something that we can act on, if possible.
So a recommendation on referring issues to committees.
Yeah.
And
Recommendation for Health and Human Services.
is it just Health and Human
I don't know, I mean,
Services?
we
I mean, to others
It's the
too,
only
I think.
ones that don't have a staff.
So
Then just say in
strategy-
general, for
so-
any committee that doesn't have staff support.
Yeah, so exactly, strategize on how to assign staff support to for those lacking, I guess.
Something of that nature.
anything else?
Actually, if I can, I did take some time to go through the list of boards, committee, commissions, and I randomly looked over them to see what's their presence on the web. And you can indulge me to either work with Allison or someone to look at this list, and I had suggested it before to see if we can break out the committees that are regulatory, separate them from advisory committees and the elected bodies and the town-appointed committees, that how they derive their authority is different, and how much this committee, our committee, can mess with them, like leave the regulatory committees alone. So break them out, show them where they are.
You've already done this, haven't you? One of the
It's-
visual documents that we had.
Yeah, I do
But
have
it's
that
not on the
list. It's
website?
this,
I
Yeah, it's the same list that Allison and I are working on, and she is also finalizing that list. Because there's also some things as far as the airport commission that we're looking into to see who actually has authority over them.
Right, which, so I had, when we first started meeting, because we are such an odd form of government, you know, these statutes don't say that they're, it's hard to apply them to us. You know, usually it's going to say, you know, an E or a C or a D, there's no letters, that we're just very unique. And so we don't have a mayor, we don't have a city council. So I went through them. I initially had thought, okay, it seems like maybe the town manager would be appointing more of these committees. I went back and looked at the language more closely along with Karen. And I think we've come to the conclusion that how the town has been, or how the council has been acting at this point is how it should be. There are really only 3, I think I sent you.
Yeah, for-
I know, I don't think the local comprehensive is really on our list of committees, but that's one. But then it's the affordable housing, and then there's one more.
Barnstable Municipal Water.
Barnstable Municipal Water. So those are the town manager appointed committees, boards, commissions. And then everything else is you all. I have a list, I don't remember whether I shared it with you or not, but I have a list at least separating out the regulatory. And that's gonna be planning, that's going to be Board of Assessors. Those are the statutorily, they have the job.
What's CPC?
Community preservation.
No, I know what they are, but
But that's
what,
by state law too, right? Or
Isn't
well,
it?
it's by our
Because
adoption.
that's-
of it.
So it'll either say, it'll say it in the statute, it'll say it's advisory, and then, and mostly in our code, or the statute will say they regulate, it's in the language of the statute. And I created a document that says, and cites to the statute, so I'll put a draft, I'll go back to my draft and put it in a form that, or a format
because
that you all.
I've seen in the agenda item, for the CPC, it says it was voted on by the town council in 2023 to send $2.5 million to the Affordable Housing Trust. Do we vote on that every year? Or since that was voted on in 2023, does that carry through? I mean, I see that language and it bothers me.
Yeah, that's what bothered me too, it's like,
Yeah,
That
I
was
think
on
they
the
vote
last
on
one,
it every year.
so,
It's
I mean, but it's an agenda item
yeah.
that we.
Because I think if you look at isn't it on the tax bill?
No, it
It's-
is, but it's
Yeah, just this
10%, 10% goes to the 3 buckets. And then the rest of it is used as
Discretionary.
as discretionary, because you may have a big ticket item in historical, in housing, in recreation. But this vote, I think this vote should be done every year. I don't think we should be, that agenda item really bothers me.
Oh, you mean the vote should be at the council level, not at
Yes.
the committee level?
No, it said it was the council. It says in the agenda item that the town council voted. Am I going crazy? Does anyone not remember?
No, you're
that.
right, you're right. No, you're
It
right.
says it was voted, it had a bunch of years, the latest was 2023. Well, here we are, you know, in 2025.
Yeah, that would be a question for Mark on how that bucket is divided. Mark
Well, it's
Bell.
at the discretion of, you know, as things come up.
I don't know.
But CPC, you're right, I mean, it is, the residents voted it in, so there's some sort of regulatory aspect to it. But then it's discretionary after you get the 10% on what you do with the other pieces. But this default that every year 2.5 million goes to the
Yeah, because I
affordable
think you had that discussion with Mr. Ganella on the recreation side. Why wouldn't he be using some of the CPC funds?
That's what I'm saying,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
because they're slated for such things as playgrounds and
exactly.
revamping fields
Exactly.
and,
Yeah,
but they don't seem to get as
They don't
much
seem to
as
get
the
any.
housing.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that's
I
what
like
I'm
that.
saying.
Recreation got a lot a few years ago.
Well, it just,
It all hasn't been spent because they're still working on doing the Centerville Recreation Building. It's taken a while for some of those
Yeah.
projects to,
Knoxville too, same.
yeah, that's right, to get some
because
traction.
I know coming back in September is that right there behind Cynthia.
Hmm.
Is is the exterior, stabilization of the armory. That's all CPC money. But what we're trying to get the CPC today, they couldn't come or, no?
We'll put in whatever you think would be good. I think the CPC would be good.
CPC is an important one because there's a lot of discretion there.
Yeah,
And that's a lot of money.
yeah. I'd
And
like
our
to talk-
residents, we fund at the
See if we
highest
get
level. We
Lindsay
fund it
in
at
here to do
3%.
For the next meeting. That'll be plenty. We gotta talk about when the next meeting. Dates.
Just schedule it and I'll be there or not.
These Mondays seem to work as good as anything else.
So just to be clear, local comprehensive planning committee, that is a town manager appointed.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
The CPC though is,
Comprehensive
I mean-
is,
no, I'm just saying, is it, the
Community
CPC
Preservation
is
Committee.
appointed by the appointments committee, but
community preservation.
what are they considered? Are they regulatory?
I think they're
Because
advisory, right?
They're not regulatory, so regulatory is
So
Board of
there's
Assessors,
a lot of discretion.
Board of Assessors, Board of Health, Conservation Commission, ZBA, Licensing Authority, Old Kings Highway, Historic District Committee, Hyannis Main Street Waterfront, Commission and Appeals Committee, Airport Commission, Planning Board, Board of Registrars. Those are the regulatories.
The thing about the CPC is we can always tell them to drop dead and not pass their
That's
permit.
what I'm saying, so there's a lot of
So-
discretion there, so that's one we should be actively engaging with, I would think.
We can say to the CPC to drop that.
Well, if they
Yes.
pass something along to us that we don't like, we
Yeah,
can vote it down.
exactly, yeah.
So then the authority lies on us and they advise us whether we should
Yeah.
vote on something or not, or they recommend to us.
That's advisory.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I mean.
Do we have a date, do you think? When's everybody good? Mondays?
It's fine with me.
Mondays are fine.
Well, let's throw out a date. When would you think we're getting into,
Is earlier better? Is 3:00 okay, or is that
For me,
impossible?
that's fine.
I'd
Yeah, that's
rather go
fine.
earlier because
Me
my
too.
daughter does have a thing that
Yeah.
I found another person to take her to tonight, so.
so you wanna do it like 3 or 3:30,
3
something
on
like that?
Monday?
On, which Monday?
I think, right now it's,
You wanna do August 4th? It's the first Monday of
okay,
the beginning of the month.
3:00, August 4th?
And for my part, I think that it's important to keep the momentum going.
Yes,
Like, I have to rack my brain and I can read minutes and whatever, but I wanna keep it rolling.
Yeah.
And I feel like the more frequently we meet, A, we might not have to meet as long because we don't have a whole backlog of everything we're
Yeah.
thinking about for a
Right.
month. And B, it's still fresh in your mind, and so I may go home tonight and think of something and be like,
that's like the zoning ad hoc, they met every week, didn't they?
Twice a
Kept it
month.
going.
Well, August
Yeah.
4th is in 2 weeks.
yeah, I mean, I'm not saying we have to be like,
No, but that,
gung ho, but I just wanna,
Pick up the pace.
yes,
Yeah.
and that's the thing, and as I said about the other one here, we just gotta keep it rolling.
Okay.
Because, municipal stuff moves slow enough.
Okay, before I took the,
did Kristen disappear or?
Yes.
I took the initiative to do a little synopsis of where we are. This is not on the agenda, just for everybody to take a look at. And if you have any questions or comments about it, this is just a synopsis of where we are. What we've been doing, little AI help and that kind of stuff. So, just a review of what we've done before up to this date. So,
Oh, thanks for taking the
Thank
time to
you,
do
John,
this.
this is good.
Good overview.
So that's not for this meeting, it's just so you have it. Take a look if there's any questions or whatever,
Yeah.
edits or whatever, just go ahead and do that.
Yeah, that's good.
And I just figured we start putting stuff together so when we come down to the end, we don't have to do it all at the
That's
end.
really smart, yeah.
Okay,
Move to
to adjourn?
Second.
All right.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
right.
You are adjourned.
All
There
set,
we go.
thank you very much.
Don't move too fast.